psychology will say, like, let's look at the mind, let's look at the emotions, let's look at, even maybe the physiology a little bit, but predominantly it's about like the mind and the psyche. Somatics says it's all interconnected in our bodies and our minds. And the mind body split is sort of how we experience the world, but there's a functional unity. Our minds and our bodies can't ultimately be separated. Think of it as a married couple where divorce is not an option, right? So the mind might call the shots, right? Because we have all of our conditioning and all of our beliefs and our schemas for how we look at our day-to-day life, and that often filters everything. We filter everything through that. Body is holding on to these stories, these experiences, and this kind of instinctive wisdom also. So kind of seeing your body as like offering you so much more than most people realize, I would say. Like with post-trauma growth, it's like we're bringing the body and mind back together in a way where people who have PTSD or complex PTSD, like there's just been so much splitting because it was too much overwhelming. So like the mind had to check out, the body had to go numb, the body, all the sort of tension and the holding and the fear and the grief got just kind of, So when you open up like the channels or the dialogue or whatever it might be like, it's like the beginning of a huge adventure.
So feel me when I bring it, sing it loud. I'm from the loop and I'm proud, run a mile for the cause, I'm right.
Guys, it's your girl Nechama, your favorite Jew from the Lou. Welcome back to my podcast. And today I am so honored and excited to have Jen Campolo with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Nahama. So nice to be speaking with you.
Yes, and also like just a little shout out to both of us. But my podcast is called Jew from the Lou, but I am all inclusive of everyone. I believe that we all can learn from everyone no matter what their background is. But it is nice to have a fellow Jew on the podcast with me. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited to be chatting with you. And it's funny, we both grew up Jewish in St. Louis and not that far apart from each other.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's like the red string theory, you know?
Tell me what that is. I don't think
Okay.
I know that one.
So, a lot of times the red string theory, this is a thing that I've been obsessed with recently. It's a
Okay.
concept, it's really between like soulmates, but I think it's between everyone, whether you're like coworkers, friends, even just people who are meant to come into your life.
Hmm.
There's almost like this imaginary red string connecting you to the other person. And you
Ah,
can literally, like we do, like live a few blocks away from each other, must have passed by each other a million times, maybe even saw each other,
totally.
but didn't connect because it wasn't the right timing.
Right.
And then when the time is right, you will inevitably connect.
I love that. Yeah. The red
Yeah.
string. And the red, I mean, that energy is speaks to me of like the life force and,
Mm-hmm.
the vitality that we all share on the planet together. I've been thinking of it also in terms of a web recently. Like people
Oh,
talk about the web of life and ecology, but um I've been thinking about it as we're all sort of these nodes of consciousness in a web of consciousness. And it gets kind of trippy and quantum in a certain
you are
way.
in the right room. You are in the right room.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean because I've I we were going to chat about this long arc I've been on with post-trauma growth is what I call it, where I basically lost some very important people in my life early on, primarily
Yeah.
my parents. When I was 18, sorry, I was 16, my dad passed of cancer. And my mom, when I was 25, passed of cancer. Um, and so when someone you love dies, it's like what happens to their consciousness, right? And so I've discovered, fast forward a long time, but like that through some of the Jewish practices, lighting the memorial candle, the yahrzeit candle,
Mm-hmm.
through praying um, the Kaddish prayer and visiting the cemetery. They're buried here in St. Louis. Um, there's a sense of a continuing connection, that thread, that red string. I
Yeah.
can still feel it on my side, even though they're not here anymore in the physical
Yeah.
sense. So it's interesting. It kind of expands um, the horizons for sort of what's possible in terms of healing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think I think no matter who you are, when you lose someone, that sense of loss, like you really want to believe that there's something more, that they're still there,
absolutely.
that they're still with you, watching over you. Like no one knows for sure, but
Right.
we want to sometimes emotionally we feel that we feel their presence with us in certain times and moments of our lives, and we want to believe that. Like
Yeah.
we want that hope. And even for ourselves, like just sometimes when life down here doesn't make sense, there's a famous quote by my grandfather's rabbi,
Oh
Rav
no.
Hutner,
Wow.
and he says, in this world, there are no answers, and in the next world, there are no questions.
Oh, I'm getting chills.
Yeah, that's super profound. And
Wow.
I think it's just because there's a lot of times when we try to find answers in this lifetime, it can be really traumatizing because
Mm.
whether it's someone else trying to comfort you in times of healing and they're just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why, or, and they're trying to give you reasons why things are happening in your life, but it's not actually comforting you,
Totally.
or
I've had
even for
so many
yourself.
examples of that where it's
Yeah.
missed the mark.
Oh, yeah.
Um, just I was in high school. I went to a very shishi high school in St. Louis. My parents had always invested so much in my education, and I grew up really privileged in a lot of ways. Like I want to
Mm-hmm.
say that because I think it's important to understand the resources that we do have. Some of us have, economic resources. Some of us have social resources. Some of us have spiritual, resources and a connection to, a higher power. Um, so for me growing up, I was able to go to a wonderful Jewish school. Back in the day, it was called Solomon Schechter. Now it's Mirowitz.
Yeah.
And then I went to a secular 7th through 12th grade school. And like after my dad died, they didn't mention to me they were going to announce it, but they announced it in our school-wide assembly. And it was so the wrong thing
Mm-hmm.
for me, trying to sort of offer some kind of comfort, but in this very anonymous, large setting where I was with all my 16-year-old peers. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to try to fit in and have my grief be private.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah, at 16, you don't want to be known as the girl who lost her dad, like that's
yeah,
a
you
lot.
don't. Yeah, yeah.
So for you, do you think this is just something I've been like thinking about recently, where it's like you never know what's gonna be the right way to console someone, right? Because everyone is so different in what the
Right.
kind of comforting and consolation that they need.
It's
But
true.
I think consent is a big part of it. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, in that situation, do you feel that if the principal in private would have come over to you and said, "Hey, I'm so sorry for your loss. I was thinking that I would like to announce to everyone, that you're going through this just so that
Right.
people can be more sensitive and aware. What do you think about that? How do you feel about that?" If he had done that
Right.
prior to just announcing it without your knowledge or consent, do you think that would have made a difference?
It would have made all the difference in the world.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think at that point I would have been able to make a decision, yes or no. And if he had then shared it, if I had said, okay, this is fine,
Yeah.
I would have had that orientation to, okay, this is going to be shared. It wouldn't have been a shock to my system.
Yeah.
And then I could have had a sense of more like grounding around it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then it would have also showed that he cared about me as an individual because he would have been coming up to me individually.
Right.
Right. And and it was I understand like I'm working with forgiveness at this point in my
Right.
life, and it was his first day on the job. He was actually the
Oh,
interim principal.
wow.
So
Okay.
I was thinking about that and I was like, "Oh, he just wanted to do a good job."
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that people who go through a lot of misattunements growing up, or even
Hmm.
neglect or abuse, or the things that give us PTSD or complex PTSD. Um, there's a time where in your healing you have to start letting certain things go as best you can.
Right.
And so for me, it's been like exploring anger and releasing anger and transforming it into like love and forgiveness, basically, in a
Yeah.
very somatic
For
way
you.
for me. Yeah, for
Yeah.
my sake. And then I'm not carrying that stuff around as much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think also there's like EQ and IQ, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Buckle up.
there's emotional intelligence and there's like actually like the logical intelligence. And I feel like in Judaism as well, there's this concept that women have Bina Yesera, which is an
Mhm.
emotional intelligence. Him being a man, also leaning more towards having IQ, maybe not as much EQ.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's so wild to me too, because my aunt and my mom have talked about this, but like the period of Shiva, when you're
Yeah.
sitting for 7 days after someone dies, people come to your home and there's all kinds of laws like about how they're supposed to conduct themselves, how the mourner is supposed to conduct themselves.
Right.
But like everyone just has these wild stories from Shiva of like people just saying the most unfiltered, uncomforting things like possible. I think when it comes to like death, tragedy, trauma, unless someone has been through something similar, they just don't know what to do.
It's
They don't
true.
know how to navigate. But like I think it's so powerful that you're in this space where you are able to separate how you felt as a victim, if you will, or just someone who was experiencing it
Yeah.
versus like being able to like take yourself objectively and be like, well, I wonder how they were experiencing this.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, when we go through a lot, for me anyway, I don't want to generalize, there was just an undercurrent of feeling alone and isolated.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of, um, groups of peers and caring adults. And so, um, yeah, it's really learning to attune to myself
Mm-hmm.
and those parts of me that may not have the words to go along with the experience. I did a lot of talk therapy over the years, and sometimes that helped. But yeah, we're in a grief illiterate society, and so a lot of people have a harder time, going into those depths,
Yeah.
um, and knowing what to say to someone who's in those depths of grief or despair or, just not being able to see the way forward. And one of the things, and I don't know if this is appropriate, again, because consent is always really critical. But one of the things that's been really helpful for me is bringing it into the body. So I
Yeah.
do certain kinds of somatic work now. And it's like my body's been holding onto all of these stories for me, all of these feelings that I couldn't fully bring into like cognitive awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
so my somatic therapist, at one point, I was really upset. And she just reached out and said, "Can I hold your hand?"
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Yeah."
That's so
And
intimate.
it was so intimate,
Yeah.
but she's trained in neuroaffective
But
touch.
she asked as
She
well.
asked, you have to
Yes.
ask because,
Mm-hmm.
touch can be unwelcome, touch can be overwhelming, touch can be too
Yeah.
soon. Certainly for people who have physical abuse or sexual abuse in their histories, touch can be really triggering for,
Yeah.
all sorts of reasons. And so, yeah, in certain therapies, particularly neuroaffective touch, that's the one I know about. I do some communications work for them, that institute, and yeah, it's just you're always, checking in. And so she checked in, and I said, "Yeah, I'd love it if you held my hand." And I could let go of so much that I had been holding on to in my body,
Mm.
around feeling alone, around feeling worried,
Yeah.
about a certain issue. And so it was so simple in the end. And, I don't know if at Shiva people can do that in the same way, with mourners.
So there is an interesting law or in Hebrew
Hmm.
halacha of like how both mourner and attendee, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
conducts themselves. So like let's say for example, someone I'm not gonna say either one of us because I don't want to put that juju on us,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
let's say we are going to someone's shiva, right? We are
Okay.
going to console them.
Yeah.
When we go in, we're not allowed to greet them until they've
Ah,
spoken to us first.
that's important.
Not even talking, nothing. So you can try to kind of get their attention, like, go in front of them or whatever, but it's like you have to like wait for permission for them to like acknowledge you before you can even speak to them.
Mm. That seems like that probably, I'm guessing, helps them stay with themselves, actually.
It could
And they don't
be
have to, say, "Oh, so nice to see you," you know,
because it's
because it's not that
but
kind of.
it all just depends too, right? Like for example, I remember my both my grandparents' Shiva
Hmm.
was the one of the few times that me and all my cousins all saw each other because
Ah,
we're all spread out across the US and honestly the world at this point, you know? And so
yeah,
when my grandparents, especially when my grandmother passed, there was no longer that nucleus that brought us all together on the holidays.
yeah.
And especially once people started getting married and going to their in-laws, you know, it's hard to get everyone together. So like my grandmother's funeral was really the last time when all the cousins were all together. And so
Mm,
while there was this element of sadness, there also was this joy of being around our family and getting to talk to each other, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I still have some memories actually from Shiva.
Hmm.
When after my dad died, I had, some friends in high school who came over,
That's
and
so
it was
nice.
so nice. And one of them, non-Jewish young woman, was eating a knish, and she'd never had a knish before. So, very Jewish food.
Yeah,
And she said, "Oh, what's that?" I said, "Oh, it's a knish." She said, "Knishes." And
that's
she made
cute.
this really silly pun. And it just was so comforting and silly, and
Delightful, yeah.
delightful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think there's like those little moments too. Like I remember when my grandfather passed, and it was the year I didn't end up going to seminary. A lot of years,
Mm,
girls in their gap year between high school and college, they'll go to seminary. A lot of times that's in Israel for a year.
yeah.
And I didn't go, but the rest of my classmates did. And so they were all out of the country when my grandfather had passed. But they all called me, like every single girl called me,
Oh.
which was so incredible. And I still to this day, this is like almost 10 years later, a little over 10 years, one of
Hmm.
my friends, she was like, I just feel so bad. I wish I could do more. I wish there was
Huh.
like something more I could do. And I was like, you don't understand how powerful you just showing up for me and even just calling me and saying that you're so sorry for my loss did for me.
Yeah.
Like showing up is actually really not that hard to do. And I think sometimes we overthink the depth of how we need to show up,
Oh, yeah.
but just saying to someone, hey, I know you're going through something hard. I am so sorry. I'm here for you, whether you need someone to hug, whether you need someone to help you with like your everyday chores, whether you just need to
Mm,
talk or not talk, like I'm here,
right.
whatever.
Yeah, I like that you're giving sort of examples of things that the person could ask you to help with.
Yeah.
Um,
And just seeing that voice, you know?
yeah.
Even on a flip side, like obviously for someone's joyful occasion, like a birthday, best ideal situation is
Mhm.
you're spending time with the person. Maybe you got them a gift, right? But I think if for whatever reason you can't spend time with whoever you want to wish them a happy birthday, even just sending someone a happy birthday text,
Right.
it's like zero effort essentially, right? But even just that is better than doing nothing.
It's true. I think there's something about showing up in the way that makes you feel present and also without having an agenda,
Mm-hmm.
like not making it so complicated, which our agendas tend to do that.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of it is communicated. Um, Kind of outside of the realm of words, not like in the text realm, obviously, but going back to thinking about in person when we're sitting with someone at, a celebration or Shiva or a normal day even. Just for me, one of the things I do is I check in with my own body and like how am I feeling? Like what am I feeling emotionally sitting with this person?
Yeah.
I'm very empathic, and so sometimes my body will be picking up on just it feels like the vibe in the room or with that
Yeah.
person, and so acknowledging that internally, and then being present and knowing that there's a lot to presence that's um, includes language, but also goes beyond language too.
I want to pause for a moment because I
Yeah,
have a burning question
yeah,
that's been on my mind for a minute now. And now that you brought this up, I'm curious and I feel like you might have the answer.
okay.
Being empathetic.
Yeah.
We had discussed where I said I feel empathy, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't describe myself as someone who's empathetic, right?
Mhm.
And so something that I've been thinking about, I'm like recently is like there's people who are empathetic, and I'm like, why are they empathetic? And so I'm
Right.
wondering because like they a big part of being empathetic is that you pick up, as you were saying, on the emotions, on you read the room really well. You're almost like preemptively seeing the
Yeah.
situation for what it is so that you can kind of balance out what's happening. You're almost like the peacemaker, right?
Totally.
And so was there
Mhm.
something in like your childhood, do you think, or like your life that caused you to be an empathetic person, or is that a character trait that you're just born with, or is it a learned behavior?
So for me, it was both.
Okay.
And I do think some people, um, because of relational challenges growing up, they sort of, it gets hyper aware, that quality. Like when my mom got sick, it was right after my bat mitzvah. I was 13 years old. And it was so clear to me that she, and I didn't have to be a mind reader to feel her feelings and to understand what was going on for her. But, because I was young and she was going through so much and she actually isolated, um, and I felt more isolated because of that. I started getting more hyper aware of what I thought she might need, what I thought she might
Mm,
want. And, some people who consider themselves empaths also get kind of codependent, or they try to take care of everyone
yes.
because it's hard sometimes to then say distinguish, like, your emotions are your responsibility and mine are my responsibility, and I need a boundary here. Like, that has been a long time coming for me, partly because, developmentally both my parents got sick when I was a teenager, and so I didn't have that sense of safety in rebelling and pushing against them to kind of find who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's been sort of over time I've been just sitting with, who am I? What do I want?
Yeah.
And understanding that it's not all obvious to me, and that might change over time, and that's good.
Yeah.
But in terms of the sort of innate or genetic capacity to be empathic, I've heard of a book called The Orchid and the Dandelion,
Oh, pretty.
which, yeah, the neuroaffective touch founder was mentioning it to me recently, and her name's Aileen Lapierre. I don't know the author of the book, so I'll have to look it up. But essentially, they argue that most people are, in some sense, like dandelions, like very hardy. They grow naturally in
Mm-hmm.
different environments, have no trouble. And then about 15% of the population are more like orchids, which, if you know, those flowers are more sensitive. They
Mm-hmm.
need certain conditions, they need just the right conditions in order to grow. And so, um, I don't know that whole book or the arguments
But I love
or the
that.
nuances in it, but I do think there's some natural, whether it's genetic or, um, about the prenatal environment. Some people are just get more developed radar for those things, and then it means you have to, learn to take extra care with your self care, your, energetic hygiene, or
Yeah.
grounding yourself. And for me, I meditate, I do somatic work, I've done a ton of therapy, but also just exercising, eating well, sleeping, those fundamentals make a
Yes.
huge difference.
I was thinking
Yeah.
about this morning because there was a girl on either TikTok or Instagram who was, I guess, having a bad day. And then her mom was like, have you seen the sun today? Like, have you spent time in the
Right.
sun? Have you had water? Have you eaten? Have you moved your body? Like, do all
Right.
those things first and then tell me if you still feel depressed,
I love that.
you know?
Amen. Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's a big part of it. And like another, everyone knows I'm a big TikToker, I'm a bit an Instagrammer as a consumer. Like, I love a good scroll. And there was another one that I saw recently. My friend actually sent it to me. Shout out to you, Mushki, if you're listening. Where it was getting, as a woman, getting a manicure is not self-care.
Hmm.
It's maintenance.
Oh, what's
Be-
the difference?
because maintenance is, let's say, something with your beauty, like getting your hair done, getting your nails done, putting on your makeup. It it maybe makes you feel good for a moment, but it's not recharging your soul.
Okay.
Right? So there's more things, like we know on a physiological level, exercise or spending time in nature, or like for some people taking a bath, like, or doing
Mm-hmm.
yoga. Like there's certain things that like physiologically are changing you. There's no studies that show that getting a manicure is changing like your reset button. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
And depending on the person, it's quite the opposite. Like for me, this is partially a budget thing where I started doing my own nails as well,
Yeah.
hence why my nails are not always done anymore.
I never do my nails.
But I enjoy having them done. Like I like how the after effect looks,
Hmm.
but like when I go to a professional nail salon, it could take an hour to 2 hours.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
like when I'm first getting my nails done, I'm thinking, I'm relaxed. Look at me doing something nice for myself. You go to a nice salon, like it has ambiance or whatever. Probably because of my raging ADD, about 10 minutes into it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't itch my nose. My nose is itching. My nose never itches, but my nose is itching right now. Oh my gosh, I need to pee. Oh my gosh, I'm thirsty. Oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
hungry. Oh my gosh, I need to move. Oh my gosh, I'm stuck. And then it
Right.
doesn't feel calming to me. And I feel like a princess afterwards, but it's not the same sort of rejuvenation.
Yeah.
So for all the men out there, it's maintenance, it's not self-care.
I think that is a great point, and it's
Yeah.
good for everyone to understand the difference. And a couple things you said in the description of getting your nails done made me think of why it's, not self-care in the deeper sense,
Yeah.
because for, I guess, some of the things we do for beauty, which are more about external beauty, do involve a certain amount of discomfort.
Yeah.
Whether it's walking around in high heels, if we
Oh,
choose to
yeah.
do that, or
Certain outfits.
right. I would dye my hair. I'm just starting to let it go gray.
Yeah.
And honestly, that one wasn't so uncomfortable, but I started reading about the ingredients in dark hair dyes. And I said, is
Hmm.
this really worth it? I have a higher risk of cancer, and you can never say for sure what may, contribute or, you know, to not getting cancer. But I thought to myself, I'm gonna just cut that out.
Wow. Yeah.
Another thing that aside from the discomfort with, wanting to move and not being able to move, which is I think a big one, um, there's the sense of like, yeah, if you have to go to the bathroom or something and you're in the middle of some, big beauty thing, like that's where your mind and your body are doing two different things, right? And so we live in a culture where there's such a disconnect between the mind and body.
Hmm.
We're often overriding what our body wants to do, and we're taught that growing up. Like you sit still in your chair in school,
Oof.
right?
Yeah.
So, and it's not without reason. Like there is something about needing to suppress and hit pause on some of the, spilkus,
Right.
to
Yeah.
use that Yiddish word for kind of ants in your pants. Um, but I think one of the joys of aging actually is learning to sense into, well, what do I really want to do? What does my body want to do right now? Do I really want to spend 2 hours getting a manicure today? Or do I want to like maybe take 30 minutes to get, a little massage and then take a walk?
Yeah.
If you have the luxury of that free time, really just like I'll sometimes just do a body scan or do some morning pages, use my voice journal to record kind
Yeah.
of what's up inside, and then um, go from there. It's organic. It's like there's no agenda for that
Absolutely.
kind of self-care and really checking in because I went through so much in terms of, oh, you have to finish school, you have to go to college, you have to figure out what you want to do with your life growing up. So I was doing a lot of overriding of my grief and
Yeah.
of a lot of emotions in my body. So that is like, if there's one thing I would want, anyone listening to this podcast to take away from it, it would probably be like, just try to tune in, when you can, drop the agenda, give yourself the gift of, if it's just 5 minutes staring out the window, or, putting on a song or something to help you feel contained. And like if you're having a hard day, and let it become an exploration. Like
Yeah.
what does my body need? What does my mind need? What does my heart need? Don't assume you know. The culture we live in often tells us this is what you want. This is the band-aid.
Yeah.
This is the quick fix. This is the product. But that's not always true. And it's maybe that's obvious to some people. It wasn't obvious to me.
It wasn't obvious to me. It's a
Right.
journey, and I think that is part of the beauty of aging is that you start to like learn to take that step back and be like, wait a minute, what do I need? What do I want? And it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah.
There still might be people out there listening who get their nails done and say, no, no, that's my moment of
Oh,
self-care.
totally.
Like maybe
Totally.
it's a busy mom and she literally is like a wife, a mother, a boss babe, and now
Uh-huh.
she's like finally getting just like 2 hours for herself where she doesn't have to answer her phone or do anything. Like that's her moment.
Right.
So I think for me, like a big check-in that I always do is it's not about the experience itself. It's more about like energetically, how is this going to make me feel? Like, for example, on a slow
Mm-hmm.
Sunday morning, if I don't have anything planned in the morning, and
Mm.
my first instinct is to sleep in, or even if I wake up, I'm like in my pajamas, not really getting dressed, not necessarily showering right away. So
Right.
I'm like, is that what I need? Sometimes it is, but then also like how am I going to feel? Like am I going to feel like disgusting afterwards? Or like for example on a morning like today, I woke up, I cleaned my house, I folded my laundry, I went for a walk, I did some stretching, I did a shower, now we're doing our podcast. Like I haven't felt this energized on a Sunday morning in a long time
Mm.
because for me it's about doing self-care that's productive. That's what makes me feel
Mm.
good
I love that.
lazing around every so often, I need what they call a rotting day,
I've heard of that. Yes.
but not every day. And
Right.
there was a podcast that I just was listening to of School of Greatness last night where he was talking the guest who I'm so embarrassed I don't remember his name. I think it was Dan something. He was talking about how a lot of people want to be wealthy so that they can like be
Mm-hmm.
sipping Mai Tais on the beach all day or something, right?
Mm.
And he's like, the reality is like those people will probably never be rich if that's their desire of why they want to be rich, because that's not true fulfillment. After
That's
15
right.
days of sitting at the beach drinking Mai Tais, doing absolutely nothing, you aren't going to feel fulfilled.
That's right. You
So,
have to be
yeah,
growing always.
it's about
Otherwise,
fulfillment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. That sort of sounds like a fantasy of, having perfect rest and perfect indulgence.
Yeah.
But if that's your end goal, then I would sort of ask, do you really want to work for however many years you need to become a millionaire? Is
Hmm.
that realistic?
It's exactly what he was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so think about, I love that you've defined self-care for yourself as
Hmm.
like there's an element of self-care and it's productive self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. For me, a lot of it is I'll be journaling and writing, and there's a goal to complete I'm working on a guided grief journal for people
That's
because
so
yeah,
powerful.
yeah. Because I
Okay.
wish someone had given me the book that didn't exist, when
I
I was
love
going through this
that.
as a teenager. I always loved writing, and it's like little prompts and some snippets from poems. There's so much beautiful
Oh my
poem
gosh,
poetry.
that's something that everyone will need in their life because we all experience grief. That is unfortunately the one inevitable that is
Yeah,
certain. And it's also going back to our earlier conversation, that would make such a beautiful gift to give someone in your life who's going through grief
that's right.
as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So excited.
And the wonderful
Okay.
thing for me at this point is like I've read so much literature about grief, whether
Yeah.
it's high literature, poetry,
Mm.
or other books about grief. There is a really interesting book called The Grieving Brain that came out in the last few years, where they're starting to do research on what actually happens in the brain when we're grieving.
Wow.
We didn't know until I think this book came out in the last 3 or 4 years. It's by Mary Frances O'Connor.
Okay.
She's like a PhD scientist who also, I think, lost her mom to cancer in her 20s. And so I'm trying to bring in like all of these threads that are of interest to me because they've been so helpful for me, and it's just like wanting to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
So in a sense, it's like the self-care with all the writing I've done and all the reading I've done, it naturally seems to spill over into this, this productivity or this project that I want to bring in for people. So
Yeah.
there's that, that sense that I was talking earlier about, boundaries and like clarifying like what's mine and what's yours
Yeah.
emotionally or in other ways. But there's also the red string, right? Like the connections that are also there at the same time, or being, you know, all in this web of consciousness together. So somehow for me, by focusing more on myself and what I've really needed to learn and work with in my own healing process, it's like, oh, I'm starting to be at a point where I can like give something to other people now. And it's not really ever been that I'm totally receiving and now I'm totally giving. Um, the the image that I love is the infinity symbol, sometimes called a lemniscate, which I just learned last year. But essentially, that I'm receiving, and that helps fill my tank, and then I can give, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can receive something, and then it fills your tank, and then you can give. And so that's that social kind of
Flow.
flow.
I love a good
Yeah.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's a felt sense for me of like, okay, I'm receiving now, and it's okay to receive. It's good to receive. Can I open myself up to receive more even?
Yeah.
Because that's going to strengthen me and expand my capacity to then give. So
Absolutely.
it's not a codependent kind of blurring of the lines. It's more this rhythm.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, like, at our coffee pregame, and honestly, I feel very lucky that we got to do two coffee
That's
pregames
right.
because the first one that we did was before my Africa trip, and I was so scatterbrained that I was like, I know I love you, and I
Aw.
know that I was so excited to like have you on, and I knew it was going to
Mm.
be like a really deep intellectual conversation, no matter what we talked about.
Mhm.
But I was like, girl, I don't remember shit. Like, I don't remember shit. Like, I just got a mountain, and I just like we need to meet again. But
Yeah.
at our last, it was literally like it was last week, right? That we had our
Right.
our coffee.
Yeah.
And when you told me that concept of a relationship being like an infinity symbol and it being like a rhythm and like that flow, that was so beautiful. And I wish I had heard that concept earlier because
Mm.
I think just in general, people feel this about society, but especially with like romantic relationships. A lot of us, and I'm going to just speak for myself for a moment, have this like high bar that we put relationships on, right? It's the
Sure.
epitome of like what we want, happily ever after, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like for me, something my mom knew since I was a young little girl that I was such a romantic. Okay.
Mm.
Loved romance. I've been wanting to get married since I was 3 years old. Literally, I proposed to my crush when I was 3. And by proposed, I mean I told him we were getting married. So
You're a woman who knows what you want.
I sure was. And I also learned that you don't chase men because it scares them. So lesson learned. It took me another 28 years to but I finally figured it out now. It's like my husband will find me, whatever.
Okay.
But I digress. But the point is that like when I was a little kid, whenever I was being a menace, or whenever my mom would be like, "Well, do you want to get married? Because if you act like this, no one's gonna want to marry you."
Oh,
And so she
wow.
used that as kind of like a method because that was the only thing I would listen
Mm.
to. It was the only thing I would listen to. Anything else, I was just like stubborn about.
Well, is it okay to say you're an
I
Aries,
am an
right?
Aries. I
You have a
am.
lot of planets in Aries. I
Yeah.
dabbled in astrology,
Yeah, because I'm an
in my
Aries
20s.
sun,
Hmm.
a Libra moon, and a Gemini rising.
Oh, wow, girl.
Like,
So,
what's
so
everything? reaction when I tell them
Yeah,
my
well, I mean,
signs.
so I would just say, and I'm not a professional astrologer,
That's
but
okay.
it was a helpful mirror for me, I would say, for, wanting to learn more about who I might be. And so, yeah, I would just say, Aries is like the first sign in the zodiac. That's the leader. Of course, you're going to be, I don't know if bossy is the right word,
Oh,
but
I
like,
was bossy. I've learned to become a leader and not be bossy.
yeah. So there you go. You're a natural born
I
leader.
am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then a Libra moon. My husband has a Libra moon. They're into, harmony in relationships.
Mhm.
You want to, um,
I'm all about the
you,
peace
yeah, you want that peace. I mean, my husband,
and that flow.
well, totally. It shows
Yeah.
up in a desire for harmony, not wanting to rock the boat too hard.
Mhm.
And a lot of Libra moons are into art or music or some kind of art art form.
It's true. I went to art school,
Yeah, there you
so I'm very
go.
artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gemini rising, I mean, the rising sign, that's like how you show up in the world.
Mhm.
Um, so Geminis are the conversationalists of the zodiac. So
Hence, here
this
we are.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why also me wanting to have a coffee shop and having that space where I can just chit chat with people and
That's
have these like
right.
meaningful conversations,
Yeah, which is
whether
I can't wait for your shop to open.
I'm so
I
excited.
am I remember we were chatting about your vision for it when we did
Mhm.
our pre-meeting, and I got so excited for you and this multi-purpose large space that it would be a coffee shop and a
Yeah,
community hub in a way too.
very much so.
Yeah,
Very much so.
that's fantastic.
But back to with growing up, my relationship with relationships, it was
Hmm.
just more about like, oh, well, if I act like this, no one's gonna ever want to marry me, so I need to be perfect, right? And then
Yeah,
as I grew up, there was more of this kind of rhetoric conversation all around, right? Even communally, like within our community, a lot of people would say like there's a lot of pressure on Jewish women specifically
that's right.
to be the ideal woman, to be
Oh gosh, yeah. In
we
the
have to
Orthodox
oh
community.
yeah, there's so much
Yeah.
pressure. Like by the time you are done with high school and you're entering college, you don't have the luxury of discovering yourself and just flittering off, okay? Like
Right.
it's all about getting married and being the top-notch girl. So you don't want to
Ugh,
mess around in high school. You're not rebelling and exploring. Not that it
right.
doesn't happen. I'm just saying
No,
as someone
no.
who's a recovering type A, and
Totally.
was like wanting to like for me, I'm a romantic. I wanted this ideal relationship, right? So I wasn't messing around. It wasn't worth having a high school boyfriend because I wanted a husband. You see
Ah,
what I'm
I
saying?
see.
I was playing the
Yeah.
long game. And so I was like, I didn't want to be a girl with a reputation. So
Oh,
I was like,
golly.
let me be the golden girl, which I was. And I excelled at it because when I put my mind to anything, I can excel at it. But there's a
Right.
difference between excelling at something and it being what's right for you.
Right, right. So a lot of what you're saying reminds me of some of the social expectations that didn't fit for me when I was younger
Mm,
either. Very different expectations. I'm not Orthodox. Grew up more conservative reform, but going to high performing high school.
yes.
I wanted to take time off after my dad died. They were like, absolutely not. I wanted to, maybe take some time off before going to college. No one knew of anything like that going on at that point in time. There were
Mhm.
no options for gap years.
Yeah,
And so I soldiered on,
right. I
and it
like
was at
that soldiered
right, it
on.
was at a
Yeah.
great cost. I mean, I ended up taking a year off college because I was depressed, and that was a blessing actually because I found the courage and I had a supportive kind of healer mentor. Um, but I found the courage to flip the script to say no.
Yeah.
This is actually not working for me. And
Yeah.
during that year, I did some other things. I learned to meditate. I taught as a substitute teacher. Took a couple classes that I thought were really interesting. I was living at home with my mom, at the time, and then it was fine going back to school, and I had a sense of being more well-rounded at that point.
Yeah.
But it didn't come from society. Like they were like, "Oh, well, dot dot dot," It came from my own inner knowing.
Mm.
And so I've had to work on developing that and trusting it. And with love, it's hard because we all have, you know, the deep desire. No, I shouldn't say all of us, but many of us, want to find our perfect partner and have the most wonderful relationship that we can. And then there's all these, industries that and teachers and guides, some of whom are giving us better advice than others on how
For
to do that.
sure.
And so, I met my husband online. We both had dating profiles, and um, I noticed he was playing an upright bass, and I was 40 when we met. So it took me a while, but I had healing work to do in my 30s.
Yeah.
And I had a relationship with another man who, it was about a 5-year relationship. We ended up living together, but he never wanted to get married. And I thought, oh, eventually I'll convince him. I didn't. And that was me over efforting. In my case,
Yeah.
that was me trying to push something that wasn't going to be pushed. So I ended up breaking up with him. And it actually took the death of a dear friend, well, as my best friend's mother.
Yeah.
And then it became clear to me, I don't know how much time I have. No one knows how much time we have. So that
For sure.
that again gave me the courage to say no. Like, this is not what I want. So I broke up with him. He moved out. And then another couple of years went by, and then I met my husband online, and
The rest is
the
history.
rest is history. Yeah. And it's so different from, I mean, I didn't have much of a vision even. I I just am constantly sort of amazed. I have to pinch myself, and it's also hard work. We have our differences. Like, we're very different communication style. We have different communication styles. He's in AI and tech. I'm a writer and editor and lead workshops for people in very sort of soft, touchy feely ways. But it works really well, and we're working at it. And we
Yeah.
have that infinity symbol actually on our ketubah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I come back to that as kind of like my mantra almost, like, but it's a kinesthetic. It's like, okay, is it feeling like this? Is it feeling like I can receive and also give, and he can receive and also give, or are we caught in some kind of friction point?
For sure.
And
Yeah.
um yeah, and there's no cookie. I wish there was a cookie cutter way to meet your
There
person.
is not.
There isn't.
There are cookie cutter methods that people try to do, and I think for a
Mhm.
lot of people it does work for them, like traditional matchmakers within the Jewish
Oh,
world. It
right.
does work for a lot of people, you
Mhm.
know. It
Hmm.
did not for me
Mhm.
yet, I guess. I don't know what my method's gonna be. I guess
Yeah.
we'll know when we know.
Yeah.
But for me, addressing first what you said, my mom actually sent me a TikTok or an Instagram. She doesn't have TikTok, a reel last night that was saying that when you find your person,
Mhm.
it's not about shared interests or necessarily values or all these things that we all have on our laundry list of what's going to make a perfect partner.
Right.
It's about this emotional safety of, can I be 100% myself, the best version and the messiest version, and I feel safe and I feel at peace and I feel like we're going to
Definitely.
grow, like, and there's that safety to grow because, like, let's say for example, you may have, if you look at yourself 10 years ago, the interests that you had 10 years ago, I would imagine, are not the same interests that you have today,
No.
whether it's music or books or what you do with your free time. Like, that is always evolving. So if
Right.
those are the qualities that you're trying to look for to be like, this is what I need in a person, that's not necessarily what's right. I think it's just, and that's why I personally find dating apps or matchmakers or like trying to tangibly explain what I'm looking for so difficult,
Mhm.
because what I'm looking for is a feeling,
Ah,
if that makes
it
sense.
does make sense.
It's
Well,
that je ne sais quoi of
yeah,
like,
yeah.
when I meet that person and it's like it's gonna feel right and it's gonna keep feeling right. Because I've definitely felt connections with many men over my course of my dating years, or just even just meeting men where I'm like, whoa, I feel something special here. But
Mhm.
something beautiful that I've come to conclusion with, and Kabbalah has really given me a lot of peace with this,
Nice.
is that I'm not forcing anything anymore. I'm not trying to control anything. And as an Aries, woo, is that hard?
Well, yeah, there's
But
there's a natural, I mean, we were talking about the Aries sun and the Libra moon. So Aries and Libra are opposite each other on the zodiac. You know
Yeah.
the zodiac, right? Aries is spring, Libra is fall, and it's 180 degrees apart. So there is this work of balancing, reconciling, integrating that leader part with the part that wants to be receptive and harmonious,
It's like
you
also the
know,
feminine and masculine
the
too.
feminine and masculine.
And that's
Yeah.
the other thing is like I am so feminine, but I am such a strong leader.
Yep.
But like in a like the my leadership qualities will help me with business. But in a relationship, I'm not looking to be a leader, and
Right.
I know I can be. Like I have that ability in me, but I believe a relationship is like a dance. Only one person can be leading. And I
Hmm.
crave to be receptive in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like there's going back to my little scroll time, there was this Instagram reel where this girl was talking about with dating. She's like, all I wanted from the guy was a time and a place. Tell me where to
Yeah.
be, tell me what time to be there.
Yep.
Can't wait to show up and just be the delightful, lovely, feminine woman that I
That's
am.
important for women to
So
have
important.
that. I mean, if, as a woman, as a female business owner,
Yeah.
like you are working so hard with
Mhm.
the business side of your life. Yeah, anyone
I don't
who,
want to think.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
show up and be just delightfully pink
Yes, totally.
and
No, I
sparkly.
think that's important for the men
Yeah.
listening to this to understand too that if you're dating a woman who has a lot of responsibilities on her shoulders during the workday, like take a minute and think about how can you make your date like easy for her? How can you make
Hmm.
her feel relaxed and safe?
Yeah.
You
So
know,
huge. Feeling
so
relaxed and
huge.
safe is
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
And so she was talking about, so this girl, like this guy just could not get it together to plan the date.
Oh no.
So she canceled the date with him and
Mhm.
she flew herself to another city
What?
and plan like a whole self-love date for the weekends.
Oh,
She was like, I literally booked a plane ticket, a hotel, a whole weekend of like all these fun, delightful things.
huh.
And all I wanted from him was a time and a place, and he couldn't even do that, which I
Interesting.
thought was interesting. But
Mm.
I think for me, it's just not like going back to, like I said, I've met so many men who, like, it's not even necessarily that it turned into anything romantic. It's just like I felt like a connection with them, like the
Yeah.
potential, which I think a lot of girls and even men can relate to. You meet
Oh,
someone and you're like,
totally.
oh, I feel like something could be here.
Well, and there's all these projections that naturally will come
For
through.
sure, because it's
Yeah.
not every day necessarily that you meet someone who you connect with. And then when you do,
Right.
you're like, hear the birds and the angels singing, and you're like,
Yes.
is this the one?
And that's not a bad state actually to be
No,
in. I
but it's
think,
good to, as a woman, the biggest thing my friend
yeah.
and I talk about, and it's like if you're a woman who is craving a more traditional feminine masculine
Hmm.
energy in a relationship and you want to be in your feminine role and you want to be
Right.
relaxed, the
Hmm.
best thing you can do is just lean back and do nothing.
Yeah.
Drop the handkerchief, let them come towards you, be receptive
Hmm.
if they come towards you, but at the same time, like giving the space in the relationship for him to show you how interested he is.
It's true.
Because sometimes guys could think you're awesome as a human, but they're not interested in like pursuing a relationship with you. And if you start projecting these like little fantasies on them,
Right.
then you get ahead of yourself.
You can, yeah. I guess what I mean is it's interesting to reflect on like that moment when you've clicked with someone and maybe, it's 2 weeks later or a month
Hmm.
later and you think back to that moment and how you felt and for me, that's the interesting point in time. Like, if you can kind of conjure up that memory with a
Yeah.
particular person, and then you can start to sort of say, oh, I think this is why I felt this way to some extent. Like, I liked the sound of his voice, or I liked how safe I felt with him. I like that he said this or did that.
The
It starts
qualities.
to give you a sense of those qualities that led you to feel a certain way. And um, it's not that you get to get all your wish list met, but just to kind of give your system that awareness. Like those are the qualities that I really like.
And I go, how did I feel? Like, what
How
do
did
I,
I feel?
going back to
Yeah.
what I said, like, how do I want to feel?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
and so giving your system that orientation um to what makes this relationship feel good. So like I'll tell you when I met my husband, First we had a phone call, and I thought, oh, his voice is nice. And he
Mm-hmm.
asked me if I preferred to be called Jen or Jennifer right off the bat. It was like this respectful interest in attuning
And
um,
consent to all that.
and consent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on our first date, there was no pressure, but to kiss or anything. But I remember him telling me about going to his older sister's wedding, and I just got the sense he comes from a really good family. And it's true, he does. And they're not, Nobel Prize winners, and they don't need to be. That was like this clear thing that drew me in because I lost my parents growing up, and his parents are both alive and cool, smart, level headed people. Also from New Jersey, which is, my dad grew up in New York, my mom grew up in Ohio. So there's like a cultural resonance there,
Yeah.
even though he's not Jewish. But there was something about how he spoke about going to his sister's wedding and, being there for her. I thought, gosh, this is a good guy. Like he's supportive to family. He's not just out there for himself. And somehow that really drew me in,
Absolutely.
and it kept me engaging with him. Um, we dated for, let's see, about a year. We were living in I moved to California in my late 20s and had been there for a few years before we met. And then he said, "Do you want to move to St. Louis?" And I thought, wow, because St. Louis for a Californian, but he was tired of, the pandemic had sort of taken the rose-colored glasses off for him and for me both about Oakland, where I was living, and um, he was just open to like exploring and living in a new way. And I thought
Yeah.
that's great, And he's like, I guess at the time he was like 32. So not, so set in his ways that he wasn't going to try something new. And I was at a point, I'm older than he is, but I was kind of open to it.
Yeah.
So for us, one of the keynotes is we're both open to trying new things and exploring. And at the same time, we have that sense of like family and a home base together. Um, and the emotional safety was a
For
huge part of
sure.
that I felt with him from the get-go. Like he grew up going to summer camps that were arts oriented, and he actually became the music director of his summer camp, and then he was the administrator for 4 years. Um, and so that gave him a sense of like community that's free and open and not about fitting into like, school or fitting into like a different, standard culture. Like the
Mhm.
arts camp was healthy, and people were happy there. Um, but it was a place of creative expression.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, those are just some of the things that have resonated with me and made me say yes when he proposed.
Yeah. And I think like what's so beautiful about that too is it's like when you're just taking that moment to like enjoy getting to know someone and getting to like enjoying that energy, like you're
Hmm.
enjoying yourself in the moment and you're just being present, right? Like there's no, oh, I'm trying to get something out of this. Is this my person? It's more about like, gosh, I'm really enjoying myself. And I
Right,
really like this dynamic. And then you leave afterwards and you're still feeling energized. You're not drained. Like it's no like vampire energies, like,
right.
or energy vampires, like you were saying
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Or, and you know, and then you're like, well, gosh, and not only do I not feel drained, I feel energized and can't wait to see them next.
Yeah.
And I think just following that flow is like really what builds a beautiful relationship. But like that just took me time. And I think I don't think there's anything wrong with the way the Orthodox dating world works. I
Hmm.
think it was just my relationship and my perception and my personality. Like there's so many factors to why a certain style of dating works for someone.
Sure.
And just everyone's timelines are different. Um, my friend said a great quote that I love, which is, "You're never late for your own life."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's so easy to compare and to look around, and we will never know the reality of what anyone is going through, even if we have more in-depth conversations like we are right now.
It's
This is
true.
just scratching the surface of both of our experiences, you
It's
know?
true. Yeah. That's a great insight, you know. there's a mystery, that's here and that's alive in every moment that we're alive. I think you said earlier it was your grandfather's teacher said something about how when we're here on the planet, as a human, there's no answers.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we die, if, we're in the afterlife or something, there's no questions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I remember my high school yearbook, you have like a little box where you can share a little bit about yourself as a senior. And I I had a quote from, well, a couple quotes. One was read by, I think, is it Hillel or Akiva? He said, "If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm only
Mm-hmm.
for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?"
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of an interesting mantra, and sort of my attempt, I think, in quoting that was like to just understand that balance between being here for myself but also needing to be connected to other people. And then the other quote was from Rainer Maria Rilke, who's a great German poet, romantic poet, who writes in Letters to a Young Poet, which is a set of letters that he actually wrote to a poet who had reached out to him for advice on his poetry. But Rilke says very famously, you know, you have to live the questions now, essentially. And one day, without realizing it, you'll live your way into the answers.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I
Can
loved
you say
that.
that one more time?
Yeah, I should look up the whole thing because it's the context is the poet is asking him to criticize his poems, to give him specific, advice about his poems and about should I become a poet. And Rilke says, that's not important. If I were to tell you something, you couldn't even take it in because the important thing is to live the questions.
Hmm.
And then one day, without even knowing it, you'll live your way into the answers.
Life is fast, but every now and then you deserve a pause, a moment that's just for you.
At Le Café, we believe that each cup of coffee should taste like a little bit of luxury. Handcrafted and locally roasted here in St. Louis, each of our single origin beans are carefully selected to give you the most unique and smoothest experience. Whether you like a light, medium, or dark roast, we got you. For those busy mornings or for my coffee lovers who prefer efficiency, we also have K-Cups. So go ahead and pour yourself a cup that tastes like self-care. Visit www.lecafe.us to bring the cafe experience home. Le Café, you deserve it. I love that. And
Yeah,
I think that's what going back, I don't know if I said it out loud, but I was definitely thinking it. The whole concept of the infinity symbol for the relationships, like the whole point of when I was like saying about all the pressure that I had put on myself over the years, both internally and then externally picking up to be this like
yeah.
perfect person before I could be in a relationship. It wasn't
That's
even
hard.
it was hard because I think a lot of people maybe had looked at me and thought that I was being too picky and wanting this perfect person, not realizing that I had actually done the complete opposite, where
Hmm.
I was looking at myself and was like, am I worthy of being in
Right.
a relationship? And then using all this time to work on myself because I didn't feel worthy.
Right. And there is this sense where some women think I have to love myself and be up to a certain standard
Yeah,
before I can meet someone.
right.
And I want to say like that is really the opposite of
Hmm.
what I have found to be the case, which is that when I could be vulnerable and
Yeah,
when I am able to be vulnerable emotionally with my husband, um, show the tears, show the messy spots, show the chaos to him, that is when he feels the most needed and the most wanted and the
that's
most
so
and sees
beautiful.
me as lovable and real.
Because he wants to be there for
He wants to
you.
be there
And I'm
for
sure you
me.
want to be there for him in the same capacity. Like,
Yeah.
if we really think about it for a moment, like, if we get rid of like all the external perfectionism of what we want a relationship to be,
Right.
we want to be our truest, most authentic selves, not just the best version. We want to be able to show up in the worst days and still be loved.
That's right.
And we
That's key
and
for a
it's
real
yeah,
relationship.
like being loved, but then also that gentle, that space to be if we're in a dark space, but then also the same person will eventually be like, go take a shower,
Yeah.
pull yourself up, get yourself
Yeah.
together.
And they'll give you a hug maybe or, rub your
Yeah.
back or
And
something.
like figuring out how to be that for the other person. And
Yeah.
that's always evolving and changing throughout the seasons of if you're, life is short. Another guest, she said, life is short, but it's long if you're lucky.
Mm.
And so it's like
Mm.
for however long we're with our partners, like it's like what a privilege to get to know them in every season of their life and be there for them in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
Yeah, I think of it as like I use the word attunement a lot. It's sort of a psychology term, but basically like sensing like what do I need right now from myself, or if I'm in the context of like sitting with someone or in a relationship, like, oh, can I attune to where they are right now and what they might need or want. And in terms of self-love or any kind of love, I think of it as like, what am I able to attune to right now? Can I attune, or am I, like overwhelmed and I need to
hmm
just step back? Because with the example of like trying to be the perfect, you know, kind of cookie cutter, like, or the best version of yourself, even, all of those are kind of um external like images, I want to say, or
yeah,
ideals or concepts. And so that's a mental realm. When you're really attuning, for me, it's more about like sensing my body, saying, how am I feeling right now? Not going quickly to the head and quickly to the concepts and the ideas and where I want to go eventually, because the mind will always jump ahead. Like the mind is such a good time traveler, right? It will jump ahead or it will jump back, but it's very hard for the mind to be actually right here in the present moment with us. What it can do is kind of step off to the side and just like take notes. Like as I'm aware of like what I want to attune to with myself or with my husband, like my mind will take really good notes on that. And
yeah.
so trusting that it's like the Bina, I think you were talking about, like that the emotional intelligence will kick in, and I can just, if I feel safe enough to speak my truth, to say, oh, like, I feel good today, do you need anything? Or actually, like, could you help me with, this bill, or maybe pick up dinner, or, oh, I really would love it if like you could do the dishes because I'm kind of frazzled right now.
Yeah.
Like, just being on the spot and honest with my needs. And I have to say that too, like when we're first getting to know someone, like there isn't that level of intimacy. And of course, we want to put our best foot forward.
Right. You have
Absolutely.
to build that
We
trust
have to
too.
build it over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to expect that level of intimacy, even just to ask people for things before you've built a connection doesn't make
Yeah. No,
sense.
no. But yeah, so as I was saying that, I was like, oh, but this is like me and in my marriage, and like you know, I'm wanting to find the thing that will be more helpful for, the single folks out there and for you. And I think it's just like, you know, doing the good self-care and then showing up with whatever, feeling it out, let your emotional intelligence like be there with you.
Yeah.
And like how to put your best foot forward at the same time.
I think
um
being brave enough to do everything in life messy is really the
mhm.
way to go about it. Because
Yeah,
even like, for example, where we initially met was Babes in Business.
that's right.
And so this circle of women that meet once a month, we talk, and depending on the month and the women who show up, the conversations tend to be different.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're more intimate, but the one that you went to was super intimate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
And it was actually funny because it happens to be randomly people were talking about their relationships
That's
on that
right.
one.
That's
Like,
right.
and so
Yeah.
there's something that I've been thinking about recently. Like, I look at couples, like I've been looking at women who I'm like,
Hmm.
what women are in relationships? And for me, it's marriage. Like, it's not even just about
Hmm.
being a girlfriend, it's like being a wife. And like,
Right.
what is their energy? Like, what
Mm,
it's not even just about what is this perfect marriage like. I'm past that. I'm
good.
like, these women who are in relationships that I think look really beautiful from the outside, what's their energy? And I've noticed a pattern.
Oh, interesting. What is it?
They're unbothered.
Unbothered.
These
Ooh.
women are unbothered, and the men are obsessed with them. The women who have like relationships where their husbands are just like doting and like all about them, these are the women who are like, listen, we can get married, we can get divorced. I don't know. He's in love with me. He's crazy, but whatever. I'm out here living my best life, doing my thing. And like,
Mhm.
she loves him and she cares for him and she adores him, obviously.
Yeah,
But she also loves and cares about herself the same, if not more.
totally. You have to put yourself
And
first.
she does.
Yeah,
And so she has this unbothered state where she's like, as long as you're matching my frequency and you're adding value to my life, babe, let's go. But if
right.
not, like, always have a plan B, babe. Always have a plan B. Like, don't think you're going to be here forever. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
They're like, because a few of the women were like, yeah, I'm happily married right now, but we might get divorced. It just depends
I
if you
remember
decide.
that at that event.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're just like,
yeah.
and they were so chill about the whole divorce thing. Not that they like don't love their husbands, they were just like so about me and my happiness, what makes me good, and I'm unbothered. And regardless of whether this man is in my life or not, I'll be good.
Yeah.
So as long as he's doing right by me, welcome.
Well, it's about that consent piece. Like
Yeah.
every day, whether you're married or in a relationship of any kind, consent is what makes the magic happen. If you
Hmm.
feel like you're trapped or you're not really
Living your
living
best
your
life.
best life, if you have a no actually at anywhere and you're like, no, I don't want to consent to this, then that's important for you to
Right.
listen to. And
Women
I think
get
that's what
lost in
those
being wives and mothers
Oh,
sometimes,
totally. Yeah.
you
And
know?
I am not a mother. So, that's a whole layer of obligation and commitment and love that, that I can't speak to in terms of having my own kids. Because I know that there's going to be times for anyone, who's a parent where they're going to just be like, oh, I have to do this, because I have a kid and I have to,
Yeah.
take care of 50,000 things because I have a kid and I'm juggling this and that and the other.
But the
But
reality
I
is
think
that's life.
that is life. And I think with marriage it's a little different between, the spouses because assuming, kids aren't part of the picture yet, um you really can take that attitude of like, yep, vibes check out today. This is good. I'm going to stay committed,
Right? But even
fully committed.
so, like
Yeah.
back to what you were saying, like let's say, for example, even within a relationship, there's going to be things that you don't necessarily want to do. Like,
Right.
I mean, there are certain chores around the house that nobody necessarily is in the mood to do. But
Yeah.
if you see that your spouse is having a hard day and doing said thing is going to just help the peace of the home,
That's true.
that's taking one for the team. So it's like
That's
you have
true.
to moderate and make sure that there's like that balance and that's you're not running yourself
Yeah.
ragged.
Yeah. And that's harder for
But
me, I think, that piece
but
of
that's the
it.
same thing in a romantic relationship. It's the same thing when you're a mother, and it's the same thing if you're a business owner and
Yeah.
at work too. Because like I think for me, dipping my toe into the entrepreneur world was I started this about a year ago, and I'm still in my infancy stage for sure.
Hmm.
But like seeing so many women over the course of the months that I've been part of this, some are just like new, like me, like just dipping their toes in, leaving the corporate world.
Right.
Some have been doing this for 20 plus years. No one knows what the hell they're doing
Yeah.
to a certain extent. You
Yeah.
live and you learn. You do get better, you do get more professional, but you learn the most by just jumping in the fire and figuring it out because you are so capable. And I
Yeah.
think that that lesson is true across the board, whether it's friendships, romantic relationships, family, work of any kind, whether it's your business or you're working for someone else. Like,
Yeah. There's a lot of as you're speaking to that,
yeah, living the
that
question, like you
feels so
said.
true though. Like there's so much passion and bravery and also humility because when you're a business owner, there is no path that has been preset for you. You're making
Yeah,
your own path, which is
yes.
really different and unique. And for you, like I think it's a really beautiful, refreshing change from you were describing when you were growing up and being in an orthodox setting, and there were all of these kind of steps and expectations,
Milestones, if you will.
milestones, yeah,
Mhm.
that were very heavy, I think.
Especially for a young age. And like,
Oh gosh,
these are
yeah.
still things that I want in due course at the right time. And I have no doubt in my mind that I'm going to get married. And I have no doubt in my mind that I'm
Yeah.
going to be a mother one day. But it's just
Mm,
more about like the timing of all that. Can I
right.
tell you a crazy thing? Because since you're kind of woo woo like me.
I am so woo woo. Yes, tell me.
So I'm a human being, and I try to be very positive, especially when I'm posting anything publicly, whether it's on my
Mhm.
Instagram pages or here on my podcast.
Yeah.
But like, it's not all roses and sunshine, and I break down just like anyone else. And like,
Yeah.
I'm 29, so I'm still very young. But like, what's weird about this era of dating for me versus when I was younger is there is this biological clock in my head
Oh yeah.
where I never really had that consideration in my early 20s of, oh my gosh, am I going to be a mother? Like, it was never really a doubt in my mind. I
Mm,
was just more about, let me find the right guy. Am I the right girl? But now
right.
I'm like, there is almost this quiet little voice of like, will I find someone in time to be a mother? And the
Yeah.
heaviness of that, because it's like, then there's this whole thing of like, do I want to be a mother? And then
Yeah.
like, even though I want to be a mother, I don't know if I feel like it's the right time for me to be a mother right now, where
Right.
I'm at with like my business and stuff. Can I be the kind of mother I want to be? And that self-limiting belief, it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I have a couple thoughts. I mean,
okay,
one is practical.
okay.
Was there?
There was a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
more.
please finish. Yeah.
Yeah, so but there was a few things that kind of shifted for me recently. I don't know, like two of my best friends had babies this year, and it's been
Okay.
such a joy and an honor to like
Aw.
watch my friends become moms because like it's just beautiful.
Babies are
And
special.
it's just beautiful to see my friends who are like still them, but they're moms and like little versions of them and their husbands and the love and like it's just so beautiful. And then
Yeah.
like I don't know, I've always loved kids, but I think it just kind of scared me because I think there was a limiting belief that it would stop me from doing what I needed to do.
Yeah.
But recently I've just been super hard hit by baby fever. Like
Oh,
love babies. And then I
yeah.
just thinking about like what an like that my thought process. I was walking on Friday just this past week because it's Sunday today. I was just walking on Friday. I was had to go on a walk without my phone, like no podcast, no music, just walk.
Love it.
And I was like just thinking, and sometimes I hate doing this because I'm like, I don't know if I want to be alone with my thoughts that long. And
Mm.
I was just like, what an honor it would be to be someone's mother. Like that would be,
Ooh.
like
Oh, I'm getting chills,
just just
Nahama.
the thought of like first of all like all
Oh.
the things like God willing if it all goes the right way first like finding love, then getting married, then having the baby. And
Yeah.
so then like the fact that like I found that love and then like our love creates this new love that we bring into the world and then this little person is just like relying on me for everything and like getting to be
Yeah.
there for them and help them navigate life and like
It's
pass on like
beautiful.
it was just like well, what an honor that would be. And then I was just like but then of course I was like getting all emotional because I am still kind of on my period, so I'm like
Yeah.
also like feeling my feels that much deeper and I'm just like but will I get that opportunity? Will I get that
Yeah.
honor? Like, I believe that I will, and I want to believe that and I want to be positive about it. And I am still young. Like, there's still time, but like, there still is that thing of like, it's hard to have certainty when logically you don't see anything happening around you right now. So
Right.
having that certainty beyond logic that I talk about all the time. And then like just as I was in these thoughts and like really getting emotional on my walk, like
Mm-hmm.
literally just right out there, I
Mm-hmm.
was walking and like I by accident kicked something and I looked down and I had kicked a pacifier. I'm
Oh my
like,
gosh.
pardon my French, but I was like, God, you motherfucker. Like, like what a cruel thing to do to me. Like that was my first
Oh.
reaction. Like, why would you do that to me? And then I was like, wait a minute, what if it's a sign?
I mean, that's where my mind went.
But I love how at first I was
Yeah.
like cursing God out. So why would you put a pacifier in
Yeah.
front of me just when I'm thinking of being a mom? Because
Yeah.
like I've been on so many walks, I've never kicked a pacifier
Yeah, no, I've
before.
never done that ever, but
And then
it does seem like a little bit of
a sign.
a
And then I was like,
sign.
well, maybe it's a sign. And like the other thing that I do is like my mom and I always say, like, when you see a cardinal, it's like a sign. So
Definitely.
like for me, it's a sign that like whenever I see cardinals, it's always usually like when I'm having a thought about should I do this? Is this the right path? And then I'll see a cardinal. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right path. That's
Nice.
always when I see them. And then just when I was coming in, I haven't seen a cardinal in months, and a cardinal like flew by, and I was like, I'm gonna be a mom.
Oh,
But like,
that's
but
sweet.
even so, like even with that certainty and that hope and these signs, it's still so many times where I like these doubts.
Well, and that's human. That is
Right.
human to not
Right.
know and to feel because you don't have certainty in the sense of like your baby isn't here
Like
in
there's
the
no
flesh yet.
tangible.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So one of my thoughts was very pragmatic, which is because I'm of a generation where a lot of my friends waited to have kids
Yeah.
and fertility rates have been decreasing. Now you're still in your 20s, but I would say, and God willing, you'll meet your person really soon and kids will be forthcoming,
Yeah.
sooner than later. But just to put in the back of your mind, to get your fertility checked out if you need to, because unless it's not something that you feel ethically you could do in terms of like, I mean, some people will freeze eggs, things like that. So that I'm realizing now as I'm saying it, there's an ethical,
People do it for
yeah.
sure. I will say, like, my sister-in-law is she works at an infertility clinic and
Oh,
she's
so
like she's a big proponent of all these things.
okay.
But so here's my
So
opinion.
but you already have that information,
Oh, I
which
have
is
all the
good.
information
Okay,
for
excellent,
sure.
excellent.
But like here's the thing. I have my own thoughts and opinions on these things,
Yeah,
okay? And IVF and all of that.
yeah.
My this is just my own personal opinion. I'm not putting it on anyone else.
Hmm.
I just know, for example, the stress and the pressure that like IVF and all of that, both financially and also
Oh, it's a
just
ton.
romantically and physically, like what that can do to a relationship. And like for me, like I said, it's more about the doubt of the timing of it, but it's like I
Right.
believe that if I am meant to be a mother, I will be a mother,
Yeah,
and I'm not
absolutely.
gonna put any extra anything into it.
No, no. And I was just saying it
Because
just
I'll
because.
tell you, the
Hmm.
blessing is that right now I am bougie on a budget. You know what I mean? I don't have, girl, I can't even afford a manicure. The last thing I could afford is to freeze my eggs.
Right, right,
Like,
right. No, and I
it's
only said it just because of all of my
no,
friends.
it's a reality and people do it and there's nothing wrong with it. And if
Yeah,
that's what women need to do to feel good and to feel like they have time and to make the right choices, amazing. It's
right.
not on the table for me.
Fair
So
enough.
all I have is faith, is where I'm at, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very defended against having kids because my thinking was, I don't want them to go through what I went through.
Mm.
Like, both my parents got sick when I was a teenager, never at the same time, but it was crushing. And
Yeah, you were so
I
young.
was so young. And so I was so defended against the idea of being a mother.
Mm.
And even after I met my husband, we talked a little bit about it. I went back and forth because I became open to the possibility because I had done a lot of healing work. And
Right.
I recognized that just because my parents had cancer doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily
Right.
have it. I don't want to foreclose on the possibilities for, I love babies too. I am blessed with 4 nieces, two in
Mhm.
St. Louis, to my brother, and to that Anthony's sister has, so 4 girls. But I decided I didn't want to go through IVF, even though I had a good number of eggs because of similar thinking, and I also, I got married at 43, so it would have been almost pushing the river, it felt like to me. Now, that said, I have a very dear friend who did IVF and has a beautiful baby boy that she had, I think, at the age of 41,
Oh, wow.
42 almost. And it was like a miracle. I'm still just so grateful for, and she, went through a lot along the way.
Yeah,
But it made her dreams of motherhood come true. And it's like one of those things, that's very individual.
for sure. It's so
Yeah.
personal. Everyone has to make that decision when they're in that place to make that decision.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, I think there's something about wanting to be mothering without
Hmm.
having to be a biological mother.
They're different.
They're
They're
different.
different. Being a
Yeah.
mother is a big responsibility.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was just one of those things where it's like one thing about me is that once I get a vision in my head for something,
Hmm.
that's how I ended up in Africa, climbing a
Amazing.
mountain. You know what I mean?
So what is it like to have a vision in your head? Like,
What's my
what's your
process?
process exactly?
Oh, girl, I get like a random idea in my head to the point where anyone who knows me, I'll be like, have this like look, and they're like, oh God.
It's like something's brewing up there.
Literally, I'll be like, So I had an idea, and they're like, "Oh God!" Like they have no idea what's coming out of my mouth next.
Mm.
Because here's the thing: I don't have bucket lists.
Oh,
I just have
interesting.
ideas, and then I act on them,
So it's like one after another sequentially.
kind of,
Yeah.
or at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
I just do it. Like it's just like my that's just like the gift that comes with my raging ADD is that I just
I love
ping
ADDers.
pong.
Like it's a form of creativity in some sense. There's a nonlinear thinking.
Don't have a linear thinking.
Yeah,
I'm not
no.
practical, logical at all.
Well, and isn't that beautiful? Like life is
Yeah.
nonlinear too.
Yeah.
Like life moves in circles and
I have so much
cycles.
fun. I do. I'm
Yeah.
entertaining to myself all the time. And it's been really wild to me too, because like especially as life has gone on and evolved, like
Mhm.
majority of people have milestones. Majority of people kind of follow a certain life path, right?
Right.
And so as I've been meeting up with friends and like reconnecting and meeting up for
Hmm.
coffee, I always have that little like, what's new in life, right?
Right.
For the most part, most of them is kind of same old. But
Right.
you never know what's going to come out of my mouth
That's
next.
why I love you so much
Yeah.
and why I feel like we resonate because both of us are sort of charting our own paths
Yeah.
in a way that feels very authentic to who we are.
Even my Judaism has been the same thing. Like I call it Jews for joy.
Ah,
It's just
I'll join your
okay,
congregation,
let's go.
Nahama.
My mom said the same thing. She was like, I'll be part of the cult.
Choose for
Jews for
joy.
joy.
Oh,
Because like the thing is like I think a big part of like this is a very niche conversation, but a big part of being Jewish is like people are always like, what are you? Like, are you Orthodox? Are
oh
you
God,
modern
yeah.
Orthodox? Are you conservative? Are you reform? Like you keep kosher, you don't keep kosher. Like, what do you
Right,
do? Like, who are you?
right. What
Right?
bucket are you putting yourself into?
Correct. And especially with
Yeah.
dating too, it's a big part of it. Like, especially in Jewish dating culture, there's very much of like, who are you? What do you do? Ashkenazi, Sephardi,
How
like
are you going to
Haredi.
match with the
Yeah, yeah,
person?
yeah. And
Yeah.
like for me, I'm like, I'm Jewish. And that's all I could tell you.
Mm,
And I'm all about the joy.
beautiful.
And like
Yeah.
for me, there is that thought, I think, with dating, but especially with like marriage and like having kids, I'm like, it is difficult because I think one of the beautiful things about, let's say, being Orthodox is that it's a very clearly charted course of life. You
Yeah.
know how your home's going to be, you know what your personal values are, you know what the marriage values are, you know what the
Right.
schools your kids are going to. Like, it's a chartered course.
Yeah.
But I am a very out of the box kind of girl, and I don't necessarily have a clear idea of what that home's going to look like. All
Right.
I know is that when I think about the home that I want to have, I know I want my kids going to Jewish schools, but I want them to have a love for Judaism. To me,
Mm.
that's what's so important. Like I want to make like the Jewish holidays so much fun.
Oh,
And I want them
nice.
to just
Oh.
like when it comes to like Shabbat, it's not about, oh, you can't do this. It's more about like, here's why Shabbat's so awesome. And like I want
Shabbat
them,
is amazing. I wish
yeah,
everyone could do Shabbat at least
right. To
sometimes
an extent,
because it's about
yeah.
resting. That's what Shabbat
But
means.
like, and so enjoying that, but like making it be that quality time with like the family and having that beautiful core value memories, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And like having them in the kitchen cooking with me and like just having those like that
Hmm.
smell, you know, like in the home
Yeah.
beforehand. And it's like, I think to me, that's what I think of when I think of Jews for joy. And there's different season in my life when I'm more or less religious in different areas. It's
Sure.
not a linear thing for me. It's more about like if I feel something is joyful, I do it. And if they don't, I'm not. And I'm like, and that's
Yeah.
even like modesty. I'm more modest in the winter because I'm cold.
Right.
Like in the
Oh, I
summer,
love that.
it just depends. And so it's like I tend to be a very feminine woman. So for me, like wearing skirts and dresses is not just like a religious thing, it's also who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I don't feel feminine when I wear pants. Like it doesn't make me feel good, you know?
Yeah, that's important. If you have arbitrary rules governing your whole life, then I think it makes meaning die,
And
actually,
that's what I
for some
want.
people.
Yeah.
So, not to say that, for some people, taking on all the rules of being Orthodox, all the mitzvot, it turns up the dial for meaning for
My
them.
mom's like that. She
Yeah,
loves it.
absolutely. But it has to make sense for you,
Hmm.
is what I would say.
And
And yeah,
that's
and I'm
why I'm not
mhm,
Orthodox. And that's why I wouldn't
right.
consider myself Orthodox. But because I grew up in an Orthodox home and I went to Orthodox schools, there is so much about me that is Orthodox.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course. There's that part of you. And so
yeah.
maybe that's in the background. It's like I have two thoughts. One is Robert Frost, the modern poet,
Hmm.
has a quote. you can't play tennis without a net. And he's referring to the rules of poetry and formal poetry, where you have, this number of syllables, or, the rhythm of the sonnet. You want to work within those rules to create your poem.
Yeah.
And that is how formal poetry um, kind of works. And the parameters give you a playing field.
Yes.
Right. And so for some people, the net looks like this, or for some people, it looks like that. Like, I'm still learning as a part time self employed person, what are the structures or the scaffolds that are going to give me enough of an internal sense of support to, grow my plants off of. Even thinking of when you pollard an apple tree, or you give the plant a little, like your orchid, you give it a bamboo pole or
Yeah.
something to give it enough support that it can grow. And some
Absolutely.
people need a lot of that. I mean, I had a hard time earlier in life, partly because I didn't have enough external structure. Um, after my mom passed, I was 25. I was like, well, what am I doing with my life? And,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to go to work immediately. And I felt very untethered, so there was no net. um, and for some people, they need just a little. Some people, they want a lot. I'm really interested in the structure of the body, actually, the anatomy, because I'm in my 40s now, and learning about my spine and how the midline sort of organizes my embodied experience is so cool and
Yes.
interesting for me. And it's both intellectual, but it's also like a felt sense
And
of
it's physical.
a physical
Yeah.
organization of my body. Like, our bodies are the work of millions of years of evolution. And so there's inherent structures in our bodies too. Um,
Can I pause and say something
Please.
beautiful too?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is more woo woo too, but
All good.
also like I think something all of us could relate to is struggling with self-love. But if you ever struggle with that, connecting
Mhm.
to what you were just saying about the years of evolution that comes into who you are just as an individual,
Yeah.
there's also the concept of all the generations of people who have loved each other
Oh, girl.
for you to be where you're at.
Yeah.
Isn't
I
that
was thinking about that
beautiful?
this morning.
Like if you look at yourself and you don't love yourself, you're like, but think about all the generations of people who loved each other for you to
Yeah.
exist.
Well, and today is the Day of the Dead,
Hmm.
actually. And I do have some ancestors who I think of and, connect to in certain ways, and just remember on days like today. And that very thought was in my sort of morning reflections. It was sort of like, what did I say? I was thanking my ancestors for all the love that they brought
It's
into the world, for
beautiful.
all the work they did to support themselves and to try to give back. And if you think of how many generations of, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, it, like, you go back, sometimes they say traditionally 7 generations to try to get everyone's names. But even before that, it's like, it feels like I get chills. There's so many people behind me. Like, it feels like they've got my back, you know.
They do.
I feel,
It's like
yeah.
Mulan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Well,
With like
yeah,
the
and then that's a
ancestors.
culture where the ancestors are more formally and worshipped, and people like are revered. It's not worship, because that sort of
Yeah.
crosses a line for us as Jews. But it's a tremendous source of strength for me. I think I was thinking of the phrase chazak l'chazak, from strength to strength, I think it means,
Yeah.
just Hebrew, because I've really been, as I'm writing my, grief journal, like, what is it about? People talk about transgenerational trauma, right? Like, Jews have a lot of that. You
Mm-hmm.
look at the Holocaust, and wow, like, there's nothing I can say. There's also transgenerational strengths.
Very true.
The gifts you've inherited from your parents and their parents,
Yeah.
and it goes way back. And it's in our bodies. It's in our systems. And in this culture, we don't do a lot with the dead, really. We don't talk to the dead often, or if we do, we're looked at as crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll just mention this. I discovered a book called Take Back the Magic, which is about conversations with the unseen world. I'm just reading it. It's by a woman named Perdita Finn,
Mm-hmm.
and it is blowing my mind, because I thought, it's that time of year, Halloween, Day of the Dead, All Souls Day. I'll look into that. and the connections she's cultivated with her ancestry, because she's kind of sensitive and picks up on things, I suppose. But there's an intuitive way of doing it. And, and it was in certain aspects of a lot of religions, like Judaism too, but just was suppressed because, Hashem we think of as like above, and the dead are sort of below, like in the ground. And so we tend to want to look up and not really deal so much with like the earth plane in our religion.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there.
There's a lot of elements to that, depending. I mean, I know a lot of
Yeah,
people have been visited
yeah,
in their
definitely.
dreams,
Oh yeah,
or ghosts even. That's a whole
it's a
other
whole other topic.
conversation. That is a whole other
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, but I do
Yeah.
think just looking at the strengths and sensing into it, and like, whether your parents are alive or dead, or your grandparents are alive or dead, just reflecting on the positives,
Yeah.
the linkages, the threads that were part of this chain. My mom, the year before she died, decided to take my brother and me on a big trip,
Wow.
and we went to Australia and New Zealand for about 3 weeks altogether. It
That's
was amazing. It was like
incredible.
our last trip as a family. So she pulled out all the stops.
Wow.
And I still remember a lot of that trip. I was journaling throughout, but we stopped at a museum. I think it was in Auckland. And the indigenous folks in New Zealand are called the Maori. And there was a whole, I don't know if it was reconstructed or authentically like the original, like a meeting house. So this was a structure, a very open air structure where the people would gather. And there were all of these carvings in this very vivid red wood. And I looked more closely at it was like a structural kind of wooden hole almost. And I saw it was a woman giving birth to a woman, giving birth to a woman, giving birth to a woman. It was women, it was the lineage of mothers all the way down. And that was the central whole of the meeting house. And it just has stayed with me, this image, all of these years, because it was such a clear visual for, that generation after generation of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up and
That's really
see if I can
cool.
find a picture of it
Because if
online.
you do, I'll put it as like a little B-roll right
Yeah, yeah,
here
yeah, we
to
can do that.
share.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just interesting, like going back to earlier in our conversation, talking about like somatic work too, like the
Hmm.
body keeps the score is a big part of it.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we feel like in our hearts or in our heads, we've worked through it. We feel somewhat at peace, but our
Hmm.
bodies can still retain it if we don't figure out a way to release.
That's true.
And I didn't learn that until I started going to the chiropractor when I was like 23.
Oh,
And
nice.
he did acupuncture on me for the
Oh.
first time.
Oh, wow.
And then for like the first few months of, because I went weekly to him, for the first few months of me getting acupuncture, I would have these crazy vivid dreams of these like
Oh.
memories that like I had completely forgotten about.
Huh.
It wasn't necessarily like trauma per se. It was just like, maybe hard challenges or things that I had gone through in my life
Yeah.
that I like really, to be honest, never thought about.
You'd repressed them for good reason earlier
Yeah,
in
like it was
life.
just something
Yeah.
I had gone through and like I didn't even know that my body was holding on to it.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to him about it and he's like, that's very common. Not very common, but he's like, people
Hmm.
who tend to be more in tune with themselves emotionally, he said they tend to have those experiences when he does acupuncture. And then like
Interesting.
it's basically like the last straw of your body letting go
Yeah. Yeah.
of whatever it was. And I
Yep.
was like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's been a lovely part of my journey that I've been exploring as well, is that like my mind has its narrative
Yeah.
and my body has other pieces of stories
Yeah.
that it has been holding on to for me because it was too much for my mind.
Right.
Or maybe my mind got caught up on a trauma loop. And so I wasn't aware of some of the spaciousness or the fun or these other aspects of my life. So like, but they're there somewhere in me.
Yeah,
And where would they
yeah.
be if not in the body?
And like, like the show, like The Biggest Loser, things like that.
Hmm.
So like, is that what it's called?
The
Yeah.
one about the weight loss?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was like specifically women a lot of times on there
Okay.
will like they're in these camps where they're quite literally like there's no cheating going on. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like they have the best diets, they're getting proper amount of sleep, they're drinking the right water, they have
Okay.
like all the best of training and wellness. And
Hmm.
they reach a certain point where they're just not losing the weight. And then
Oh,
the
yeah.
coaches come in and they're like, what's going on emotionally with you?
Right. Oh,
Because
gosh.
that's a
Yeah.
big part of it too, because our bodies, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually, are quite literally protecting
Yep.
us.
Yep.
It's almost like a way of like separating yourself from the world,
Oh, totally.
which is
Yeah.
so intriguing. So,
Yeah.
like, I
When we're
know,
under
oh,
stress,
yeah.
it changes our metabolism. Like cortisol, um, well, changes so much in the body. When you've been under chronic stress, your
Hmm.
cortisol, just gets harder to kind of regulate, and it can lead to awaken. It can lead to lower immunity also. So,
Yeah,
so
like
all these things are really intimately
disease,
connected.
all the
Yeah,
things. So, somatic work, I know like that's more of an in-depth topic.
totally.
But
Yeah,
just for, in layman's terms, for the audience,
yeah,
how would you like, as an introductory to like what is somatic work? How would you describe
yeah.
that?
Well, I would say, it's getting curious about what else is here below the from the neck on down,
Yeah,
and not seeing your body as an object. Technically, like we can, touch it as if it were an object,
right.
but seeing your body as part of really who you are and having an equal intelligence to your brain. That's actually a principle of neuroaffective touch, which is I've mentioned it a couple times. It's a healing modality that I've explored because I was hired by the founder to do some copywriting for her, Aileen Lapierre, who's an amazing somatic integrative therapist. So most of my somatic work is, neuroaffective touch, a little bit of somatic experiencing. There's a lot out there. It's kind of becoming its own field. So like psychology will say like, let's look at the mind, let's look at the emotions, let's look at, even maybe the physiology a little bit, but predominantly it's about like the mind and the psyche. Somatics says it's all interconnected in our bodies and our minds. And um, the mind body split is sort of how we experience the world, but there's a functional unity. Our minds and our bodies can't ultimately be separated. Like Aileen sometimes talks about it as, think of it as a married couple where divorce is not an option, right? So the mind might call the shots, right? Because we have all of our conditioning and all of our beliefs and our schemas for how we look at our day-to-day life, and that often filters everything. We filter everything through that, but the body is holding on to these stories, these experiences, and this kind of instinctive wisdom also. So one of the things that's really accessible is to learn, and some people do this normally naturally already, but to learn to use your hand like a sensor, and just kind of use it for it's self-directed touch. It's not sexual touch.
Yeah.
Just to be like, oh, like, I have the option if like my knee is stiff, like use my hand to like just do a little self massage. But
I feel like that's instinctual too.
it is
Because
instinctual.
I
Yeah.
feel like this is something recent I've done. Wow, English. This is something this is something recently that I've done where it's like I almost find myself soothing myself where like
Hmm.
if I feel myself being stressed, I've started doing more breath work.
Nice.
So I breathe and I'll be like shh, 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 you're okay, shh, shh, shh. Like just as if I'm my own little baby and I'm like
Yeah.
it's okay. We're like just
Yeah.
like you're okay. Like just kind of like centering myself
Yeah.
by
And
touching
what is it like
myself.
to feel your body outline?
It grounds me
Totally.
for sure.
It's
And I feel like
huge.
EFT
Yeah.
tapping is probably part of
Yeah,
that.
that's a great
Yeah.
one as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I think there's this sense of like the mind is in charge and the body is just kind of following along.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when we can kind of get curious and like work with our body,
Yeah.
um, for me, that's where the deepest transformation happens, is when the body is included and maybe even foregrounded. So, because I did so much talk therapy, I was just talking in circles, talking in circles. It made my mind feel even more to some extent, like
Yeah.
isolated, like
Talk therapy isn't
encapsulated.
right for everyone.
It isn't. I mean, and not to say that it doesn't have some
Benefits?
benefits.
Yeah.
After a certain point in time, though, like for me, I became aware, like you were saying, like when you went to the acupuncturist and you started having dreams and things were integrating, like there were places and experiences that were stored inside of me where there weren't words. When I went through a lot of loss and trauma around it, like, and it wasn't sort of something the culture had literacy around, I wasn't going to know how to put words on that. So my mind never had kind of brought it up into cognitive awareness, really. It was just like kind of under the radar. So with the self-directed touch, I can like kind of start to offer some support. Like if I have, a pain in my heart that feels like, oh, it's like I miss my mom. It's very, very simple, easy stuff.
Yeah.
But what is it like to put a hand
Oh,
there?
I love doing that, by the way.
Yeah, like it's a classic move. Or, and putting a hand on your
Yeah.
belly too
Oh,
for
yeah.
grounding. So kind of seeing your body as like um offering you so much more than most people realize, I would say. Like with post-trauma growth, which is one of the buzzwords that I was well, not, I don't know if it's a buzzword, but post-traumatic growth, post-trauma growth, it's like we're bringing the body and mind back together in a way where people who have PTSD or complex PTSD, like there's just been so much splitting because it was too much overwhelming. So like the mind had to check out, the body had to go numb, the body, all the sort of tension and the holding and the fear and the grief got just kind of, So when you open up like the channels or the dialogue or whatever it might be like, it's like the beginning of a huge adventure and a huge
Yeah.
journey, I want to say. And I have so many skills with words. Like I'm a writer, I'm an editor. But it's like learning a new language, like, and touch is that language. The first sense that comes online when we're in the womb is touch. They've seen it through embryology. And if you think of a little baby and how they feel safe in the world, they just know if they're being touched and held safely.
Yeah.
Like it's an implicit, innate knowing.
It's also on the flip side, this is just something I've been feeling recently too, but like
Yeah.
whenever I'm holding a baby and like they either calm down or especially if they fall asleep in my
Oh
arms,
yeah.
I'm like, thank you for feeling safe.
Mm,
Like in my arms. Like that's like the best
yeah.
compliment in the whole world. Like
Yeah.
if dogs or babies like you and feel safe with you and cuddle up with you, I'm like, thanks for
Yeah.
trusting me. Like, thanks for thinking I'm a good person because,
Yeah.
like,
They
there's
just
no
know.
faking.
They just know.
It's an energy thing. It's the
Yeah.
greatest compliment in the whole world. If a child, if a dog, if a cat likes you, if an animal likes you,
Yeah.
like, it is like, there's no faking them, you
Right.
know?
Right. And it gets back to sort of the difference between the mind and the body. Is like the mind can predict and it can reflect, but landing in the present moment in that safety,
Yeah.
you really have to
Like,
go to
you
the
know that moment
body.
when you're like holding a baby and they just like rest their little head on you?
Oh yeah.
We're just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a good person.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
well, babies have so much. I
ah,
I want to say this is a little bit theoretical or hypothetical
intuitive.
and speculative,
Yeah.
but I mean, they've just come from, the mystery and the womb. And
Yeah.
I remember when my niece was born. She was born December 31st, actually, in 2023. So she's going to be two in about a month and a half or 2 months, I guess. But when I held her, it was just this sense of pure goodness, pure openness,
Yeah,
pure
they're so
love.
pure.
Yeah. And I loved that. And I melted as much as she melted. Sitting in the chair in the hospital, they let me hold
And they're
her.
so tiny.
They're so tiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that love that, sets us going for our whole life.
Yeah.
And yeah, and to know that that's you, that's what your body is made out of. Not on the level of chemistry or the level of physiology, but like you were talking about when that you saw that baby and it was like your friend and her husband, made this baby, like that's love.
Hmm.
And a lot of people lose sight of that, especially if we've had a lot of trauma or loss. We can get very, um, what's the word, cynical.
Oh, for sure. It's so easy.
right? Like I was like, I'm not having kids. Like I don't want anyone to go through what I went through, right? And that's, I have to respect that about my earlier childhood self or teenager, 20 something self. And it's really lovely to like come back to that truth, like and feel it,
Yeah.
that, and even my parents throughout their illness, um, they still like underneath the illness, like they were still here because of love,
And the love that they had for you.
the love they had for me,
Like
which brought helped bring me
that
here.
trip
Yeah.
that your mom planned for you and
Yeah.
your brother, like so beautiful.
So
Like,
beautiful, right?
yeah.
I still think about it because at the time I was sort of like, I was like, I have to miss 3 weeks of work. How am I gonna, da, da, da. But I look back, it was a great gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I love how just talking about all of this stuff feels like it makes it a little more present too.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's in ourselves.
It's
It's
a
in,
moment of reflection.
yeah.
Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
magic of the mic.
The magic of the mic. Yeah.
But this has been such a powerful
Oh.
episode. I love the way that it turned out. I never know how it's gonna turn out. I've had guests come on here who listened first and they thought that I scripted it or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
like we do the pregame, so we kind of have
Yeah. Oh gosh.
some thought, but as you can see, it's it's a crapshoot of what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. It's the
Well, I
magic of the
love playing.
mic.
I mean, it's like playing a game of like tennis or something where
Yeah.
we're just having fun
It's
together.
just, yeah, I'm always
Yeah.
just like when I'm sitting here in this moment with my guests, I'm always just like I have this moment of just gratitude. Like so
Mm.
grateful that I'm here and that I'm able to do this. I'm so grateful that you trusted me and my audience with your story, with your insights, and that we just have
Yeah.
this moment to connect. And like based on our energy together and the energy of
Mhm.
the day, like what are you going to share with me? And like
Right.
as you're talking, I'm just like fascinated. I'm like, what's going to happen next? Like I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
So this
There's
has been
definitely a
great.
red string here.
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm saying. And like that's what's been so special about like just this journey of like getting to know people in this space. I'm like a big part of this whole podcast, this full circle is I have this tradition at the end of each episode
Okay.
where there is a Hebrew quote from Pirkei Avos or Ethics of Our Fathers, which is Eza hu chacham halomin mikol adam.
Oh,
One who is wise is one who learns from everyone. And we have learned so much from you.
I've learned so much from you.
Thanks. But
Oh, I love that quote.
if you can leave us with like one last favorite quote or life lesson, what would it be?
Oh man. Hmm. I think, trust yourself.
Ooh,
I think
yeah.
that's been a challenge for me and learning to trust myself,
Mm-hmm.
trust your body, trust your heart. Um, let all the obligations and the shoulds, let they're there, like we can't push them totally away, but really be with yourself. Spend some time with yourself
Yeah.
as you're able, and not in a way where you're all off on your own, right? Because
Yes.
it's trusting yourself and then bringing that into the world, actually.
That's
So
so appropriate for everything we talked about too
thanks.
today.
Okay,
And
good.
like that quote is like, it's something, see, this is why I love quotes. And this is why I
Mm-hmm.
always ask for them because to take a concept and embody all of what it represents in such a concise, beautiful way is so powerful. Because that's true.
Mm.
Trust yourself. Like what we were talking about today. Trust yourself that you can get through grief. Trust yourself to follow your uncharted path,
Yeah.
to get into romantic relationships, to follow your dream job, to go with the adventures of life and connect with those around you.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
but yeah, a big part of podcasts for me as a consumer, I'll be honest, when I first started listening to podcasts, I was in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy who had a crush on. Obviously, that's how it all starts. Who listened to podcasts, and I was like, oh, I guess I should be smart and like listen to podcasts. That sounds like something an interesting person would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I listened to podcasts, and I was like, oh God, this is so boring. Like this. I hated that. I hated podcast. I did not have the patience because of my ADD. I'm like, I couldn't get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second job, a few years later, probably like 2 years later, I had a coworker who was very negative, and we shared an
Right.
office space together. And like, very rarely did she want to chit chat with me, and I just wanted to chitter chatter all day long while I worked.
Right.
And it was very lonely. I was lonely because I didn't have someone to talk to, and I was lonely because there was such dark energy in the room.
Yeah.
So I would try to create my own protective bubble,
Very
and I would
good.
listen to podcasts because I realized that podcasts are chosen conversations. I could choose
Ooh.
how the person's voice sounded, whether it was a male or female, what topic we were talking about. And unlike real conversations, I could end it at any point,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so then I started to just fall in love with podcasts, and I really started to find my niche, and there's
Mm.
so many out there. And then I could only be a consumer for so long. I got to get my hands dirty at some point.
Right. That's how it is, though. It's like we
Right.
receive and then we can give.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was, oh goodness, I want to say 25, 26. And I was working corporate, and they did a really interesting thing where they gave us a $200 budget towards
Wow.
a hobby of our choice.
Oh, how
And so
nice.
I bought two $50 gaming mics from
Lovely.
Amazon and a lighting kit and some tripods. And at the time I had a videographer because I was working corporate, so I had a little bit more of a budget for it.
Yeah.
And it was just too overwhelming in my head to do it all at once.
Sure.
Now I do it all myself. But back
Which
then,
is amazing.
thank you. But back then I had professional help. And so it's definitely been a journey. But my thought process is for myself, the power of a podcast is that you all of a sudden are listening to someone talk and share their stories and their experiences, and you relate to them. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm not alone. And
That's right.
so I was like, if I have the ability to have these deep conversations and people would be brave enough to share publicly and on video,
Right.
we can change the world one story at a time by connecting with
Mm.
people.
Oh God, I love
So
that.
that's the whole purpose of my
Oh,
podcast.
I mean.
Yes. So we covered so much today. Is
Yeah.
there anything that we haven't covered before we wrap up that you still would like to
Um,
share?
I mean, I think that covered a lot. I have had such a fantastic, joyful time speaking with you.
Yay.
Nahama, just I'm really, really feeling so much delight and appreciation
Yay.
for you and for all the work and the effort and love and passion you put into this podcast. I'm just really, really honored and grateful that you decided to bring me on. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
When I met you at Babes in Business, I was like, she's coming on for sure. She doesn't even know me yet, but like I know she's coming on. So about that, how can we support you? How can my audience connect and support with you?
Oh, sure. So yeah, so as I said, I am a writer and editor. Um, I also lead somatic writing workshops. So somatic-writing.com is a fairly new website that I've put up where I'll have upcoming workshops. If people want to go there, you can see um, what's coming up, the kinds of themes that we'd be exploring, and
Yeah.
basically we weave together poetry and some somatic meditations and exercises, maybe a little self-directed touch. Some of them are on Zoom, some of them are in person. And then there's time for expressive writing or expressive drawing. So kind of a multimodal, reflective experience
Yes.
to get people to think outside the box and feel outside the box and really trust themselves and their flow more fully. And then I'm also going to be getting jencampolo.com there pretty soon.
Yeah.
So
Let's
hopefully by the time
go.
people hear this, and that's JENNCAMPOLO.com.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is coming out next week.
Oh my
So
gosh, amazing. Well, I've got to get my husband on that.
yes.
He's a web developer, so
Perfect.
I'll roll up my sleeves for that.
Yeah, for sure. And then do you have any socials?
I'm on Instagram, JenRuss9, JenRuss number
Perfect.
9. That was my maiden name. And yeah,
Yeah, we'll link all of that in the bio so people can find
awesome. Thank
you.
you so much,
This has been
Nahama.
so great.
Yeah, what a joy.
For sure.
Awesome.
Well, guys, thank you for listening. And if you are not currently watching the episode, you can watch the video on Spotify or YouTube. And as you know, I am trying to currently grow my YouTube channel. So if you're not already following me, what are you doing with your life? Hit that subscribe button. And please share this episode with a friend who you think would benefit from all of the lovely knowledge that we've learned today. So I hope you guys have a great week. Let's get it. Let's go.